Ever feel like your 8-hour workday is just
A lot? Well, what if I told you it used to be way worse? Today, let's take a deep dive into the fascinating and often brutal history of the 8-hour workday.
where did it come from?
And are we stuck with it forever?
Let's find out.
Before factories and machines took over the world, the concept of a fixed workday didn't really exist. For most people, work was tied to the sun and the seasons.
Farmers, artisans, and laborers worked from sunrise to sunset. Sure, there were breaks, and the pace might have been slower, but the line between work and life was incredibly blurry.
You worked as long as there was light to see.
This often meant grueling days, sometimes stretching to 14 or even 16 hours, especially during harvest seasons. It was a life dictated by nature, not a clock. Then, the Industrial Revolution changed everything. Starting in the late 18th century, factories sprang up, and with them came a new kind of work. People flocked from the countryside to cities, seeking jobs in these new industrial powerhouses.
But this new world had a dark side. Factory owners wanted to maximize their profits, and that meant keeping the machines running for as long as possible.
The result?
Workers, including children, were forced to endure incredibly long shifts, often 10 to 16 hours a day, 6 days a week.
The conditions were horrific.
Factories were often dangerous, dirty, and poorly ventilated.
The work was repetitive and physically exhausting.
There were no weekends as we know them, no paid time off, and certainly no thought given to worker well-being. This relentless pace led to widespread exhaustion, injuries, and a decline in public health. People were literally being worked to death.
It was clear that something had to change.
As the abuses of the factory system became more apparent, a new idea began to take hold. People started to question whether life should be all about work.
One of the earliest and most influential voices for change was a Welsh social reformer named Robert Owen.
In the early 1800s, Owen was a successful textile manufacturer. But unlike his peers, he cared deeply about his workers.
He witnessed the devastating effects of long hours and poor conditions firsthand. In 1817, he coined a slogan that would echo through the decades: 8 hours labor, 8 hours recreation, 8 hours rest. It was a radical idea for its time.
Owen argued that a shorter workday wouldn't just be better for workers' health and happiness. It would also make them more productive and loyal. He implemented this system in his own mills in New Lanark, Scotland, creating a model community with decent housing, education for children, and, of course, a shorter workday. Owen's experiment was a success, proving that humane working conditions and business profitability could go hand in hand. His vision planted a seed that would grow into a global movement. The idea of an 8-hour day was powerful, but turning it into a reality would require a fight.
Across the world, workers began to organize.
They formed labor unions to collectively bargain for better wages, safer conditions, and most importantly, shorter hours. These early unions faced immense opposition from employers and governments, who saw them as a threat to the established order. Strikes became a crucial weapon in the workers' arsenal. Carpenters in Philadelphia went on strike in 1791 for a 10-hour day, one of the earliest organized labor actions in America. In the 1830s and 42nd, movements for a 10-hour day gained momentum across the United States and Europe. These weren't peaceful negotiations.
They were often met with violence from police, private security, and strike breakers.
The fight for the 8-hour day specifically intensified in the late 19th century.
In the United States, the Federation of Organized Trades and Labor Unions, a predecessor to the American Federation of Labor, proclaimed that on May 1, 1886, the 8-hour day would become standard. This call to action led to massive demonstrations across the country. On that day, more than 300,000 workers walked off their jobs in what was the first ever May Day celebration. However, this push for change was met with tragedy. In Chicago, a peaceful rally at Haymarket Square on May 4th turned violent when a bomb was thrown at police. The ensuing chaos led to the deaths of several officers and civilians. Although the person who threw the bomb was never identified, 8 anarchist labor leaders were convicted in a highly controversial trial.
The Haymarket affair was a major setback for the labor movement, but it also turned the 8-hour day into a symbol of struggle and martyrdom for workers worldwide. Despite the setbacks, the momentum was unstoppable. One of the first countries to legislate a shorter workday was New Zealand, which passed a law for an 8-hour day for tradesmen and labourers in 1840, although it wasn't universally enforced. Australia saw a major victory in 1856 when stonemasons in Melbourne won an 8-hour day without a cut in pay, a landmark achievement that inspired workers globally.
In the United States, the federal government passed a law in 1868 granting an 8-hour day to federal employees, but it took many more decades for this to apply to the private sector. A key turning point came in 1914. Henry Ford, the founder of the Ford Motor Company, made a revolutionary announcement. He was not only doubling his workers' pay to $5 a day, but he was also cutting their workday from 9 hours to 8. Ford wasn't acting purely out of generosity. He was a shrewd businessman. He calculated that with higher pay and more free time, his own workers would be able to afford the cars they were building. A shorter workday also reduced employee turnover and increased productivity on his assembly lines. Ford's move was a game changer. It proved on a massive scale that what Robert Owen had argued a century earlier was true. Shorter hours could be good for both workers and business. The success of the Ford $5 day put immense pressure on other companies to follow suit. Finally, in 1938, the United States passed the Fair Labor Standards Act, which officially established the 8-hour day and 40-hour week for many American workers. This legislation also set a minimum wage and mandated overtime pay. Similar laws were adopted in countries around the world throughout the 20th century, cementing the 8-hour day as a global standard and a major victory for the international labor movement. The benefits of this hard-won victory were immense. For the first time, large numbers of working people had time for leisure, education, and family. This led to a boom in recreational activities, community engagement, and cultural pursuits. People had time to go to the movies, play sports, and participate in civic life. Public health improved as people were less exhausted and had more time to rest and recover. The economy also benefited, as a new consumer class emerged with both the time and the money to spend. The 8-hour day didn't just change how we work, it changed how we live. It created a foundation for what we now call work-life balance. So, here we are, decades later. The 8-hour day, 40-hour week is still the standard for many of us. But is it still the right model for the 21st century? The world of work has changed dramatically once again. The rise of the internet, automation, and the gig economy has blurred the lines between work and home in new ways. Many of us are now connected to our jobs 24/7 through smartphones and email, leading to a new kind of burnout. This has sparked a new debate. Companies and even countries are experimenting with different models, like 4-day work weeks, flexible hours, and results-only work environments. Studies have shown that a shorter workweek can lead to increased productivity, improved employee well-being, and a smaller carbon footprint. The conversation Robert Owen started over 200 years ago is far from over. We are once again asking fundamental questions. How should we work? And how can we create a system that benefits not just the economy, but our health, our families, and our society as a whole? The history of the 8-hour day is a powerful reminder that the way we work is not set in stone.
It's a social construct, one that was fought for and won by generations of ordinary people who dared to imagine a better world.
As we navigate the challenges and opportunities of the modern workplace, perhaps the most important lesson we can take from their struggle is that we too have the power to shape our future. What do you think? Is the 8-hour day outdated? What would your ideal workweek look like? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and if you found this video interesting, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more deep dives into the history that shapes our world. See you next time.